Stormy night and an act of kindness. On a stormy night, the small town of Willow Creek was engulfed in heavy rain and deafening thunder that shook its aging buildings. The streets had turned into small rivers, and the dim glow of streetlights barely pierced through the thick fog. Most businesses had closed for the night, but Maggie's diner on the outskirts remained open. Inside, Olivia Davis, a waitress with a kind heart and unwavering spirit, wiped down the counter for what felt like the 100th time that evening. Business was slow. No one dared venture out in such terrible weather. She sighed, glancing at the clock, just one more hour until closing. As she turned to put away her cloth, a loud noise erupted, overpowering the storm's roar. A truck appeared, its headlights slicing through the rain as it came to a halt outside the diner. Water splashed from deep puddles as the massive vehicle stopped. A moment later, the door creaked open, and a tall figure stepped out, braving the downpour. Olivia held her breath as the man entered. He was drenched, his clothes tattered, boots caked in mud. Water dripped from his unkempt hair and scruffy beard. He looked as though he had been running from something. Without removing his soaked coat, he strode to the farthest corner of the diner, sat down, placed his hands on the table, and stared blankly at the scratched surface. Olivia hesitated before picking up her notepad and approaching. "Welcome to Maggie's Diner. Can I get you anything?" she asked with a warm smile. The man didn't respond. She tried again. Coffee? A hot meal? Still, no reaction. His posture was stiff, fingers tapping lightly against the table, his gaze distant. Observing him closely, Olivia recognized the look, exhausted, broken, lost. Saying nothing more, she turned and walked to the kitchen. A few moments later, she returned with a steaming plate of chicken stew, mashed potatoes, and a cup of hot coffee, placing them in front of him. The man finally looked up, his piercing blue eyes filled with surprise and a flicker of hesitation, perhaps even guilt. "I didn't order this," he mumbled. Olivia smiled. "It's on the house." He blinked, taken aback. "Why?" "Because you look like you need it," she replied simply. For the first time, his lips parted as if he wanted to say something, but no words came out. After a long pause, he nodded slowly. "Thank you," he whispered. Olivia left him alone, but kept an eye on him from a distance. He ate slowly, carefully, as though each bite was the best thing he had tasted in a long time. When he finished, he stood up, hesitated near the door, cast one last glance at her, then disappeared into the storm without another word. Olivia didn't know why, but a strange feeling stirred within her. Something told her this wouldn't be the last time she saw him. The unexpected return. Days passed. The storm had long since faded, leaving behind the crisp, refreshing air of autumn. Olivia had nearly forgotten about the mysterious stranger until he walked into the diner one afternoon. This time, he looked completely different. The ragged clothes, muddy boots, and unkempt beard were gone. Instead, he wore a tailored navy suit, polished shoes, and a gleaming luxury watch that caught the fluorescent light of the diner. His hair was neatly cut, his posture confident, almost unrecognizable. Olivia, clearing a table near the window, froze as he approached the counter. "Hello again," he said, his deep voice carrying a hint of amusement. She blinked, stunned. "Oh, wait, is that really you?" He smirked. "You don't recognize me without the mud and beard?" She shook her head, still in shock. "You look completely different." He extended a hand. Alexander Bennett. The name made Olivia's stomach drop. She had heard it before. Then it clicked. Alexander Bennett, the billionaire trucking magnate. Last month, the media had gone into a frenzy over his sudden disappearance. Some speculated he had lost everything in a financial scandal, while others believed he had gone into hiding after a betrayal within his company. And now, he stood before her. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Alexander noted, taking a seat at the counter. Olivia struggled for words. That night, you." Alexander finished for her. "I was at rock bottom. I had lost everything: faith, my company, trust in people. That night, I walked into this diner with nothing but regrets. And then you," his eyes softened. "You showed me kindness without knowing who I was, without expecting anything in return." Olivia swallowed hard. "I was just doing what anyone should do." He shook his head. "No, Olivia, not everyone would." He reached into his pocket and placed an envelope on the counter. She eyed it warily. "What is this?" "Open it," he urged. With trembling fingers, she did. Inside was a check with a number so large it made her dizzy. "Alexander, I can't accept this," she stammered. "You can," he said firmly but gently. "I did some research. You've worked here for years, saving every penny to one day open your own restaurant." Her breath hitched. "How did you?" "I have my ways," he chuckled. "And this is your chance, Olivia, to make that dream real." Tears welled in her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" Alexander's smile was soft. "Because kindness should be repaid, and I believe in people like you." Her hands shook as she held the check. Then Alexander leaned in slightly. "But there's one thing I want you to promise," he said. She looked up, her eyes shining. "What is it?" "Never stop being kind. No matter how successful you become, always remember that one act of kindness can change someone's life." She swallowed the lump in her throat and nodded. Everything changed that night. With Alexander's help, Olivia found the perfect location for her restaurant, hired talented staff, and designed a menu that reflected her love for comforting yet modern cuisine. The grand opening of Olivia's kitchen was a massive success, drawing in customers from Willow Creek and beyond. But Olivia never forgot Alexander's words. She made a promise to give back to the community that had supported her for so many years. Every Tuesday, she hosted a pay-it-forward night, ensuring that no one went hungry, regardless of their circumstances. She also launched a mentorship program for young chefs, offering free cooking classes to underprivileged youth. Meanwhile, Alexander's return to the public eye was met with mixed reactions. Some praised his resilience, while others remained skeptical about his sudden disappearance and reappearance. But he was determined to rebuild not just his company, but also his legacy as a philanthropist. He founded the Bennett Foundation, focusing on poverty alleviation and job training for those in need. One evening, as Olivia was closing her restaurant, an unexpected visitor arrived. "Alexander, mind if I come in?" he asked with a smile. "Of course not," she said, stepping aside. As he looked around the bustling kitchen, his gaze was full of pride. "You've done incredible things, Olivia. This is everything I imagined and more." "Thank you," she said, blushing. "I couldn't have done it without you." He shook his head. "You're giving me too much credit. I just gave you a little push. The rest was all you." Months later, they joined forces to create The Haven, a community center offering free meals, job training, and a safe space for those in need. On opening day, the town gathered to celebrate a new beacon of hope. Years later, Olivia stood outside The Haven, watching a group of teenagers laugh over a warm meal. She had come so far from that little diner in Willow Creek, but her core values remained unchanged. Alexander's words echoed in her mind. Never stop being kind. As she turned to go back inside, a young man approached, tired, clothes worn, eyes filled with uncertainty. He reminded her of Alexander on that stormy night. "Welcome to The Haven," she said warmly. "Can I get you anything?" He hesitated, just as Alexander once had. But Olivia didn't wait for an answer. She went to the kitchen and brought back a hot meal. "It's on the house," she said. His eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you." Olivia smiled, knowing that kindness always finds its way back.